Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out RV Daydream, and as in the past, I'm going to talk about a generator today that has been sent to me from Paxcess.
What have you been up to?
I've been riding on a daydream.
Now Paxcess is known for doing power inverters. You know that little power brick that I did a review on, the Rock Pals version? Well, they do something similar on a smaller level. I think it's only about 100 watt. But they're just getting into the market for generators. Now, a lot of these generators are starting to flood into the marketplace, and I'm seeing a lot of different brands. So what I want to do is go over the brands as I run into them and see what they're like. To give you an idea if it's something that you want to jump into. At $459, this is definitely one of the lowest price point 2,000 watt generators I've tested so far. And not only that, but this one comes with a couple of features that wasn't on some of the other ones that were a little bit higher. This one is, of course, inverter generator, 1,600 running watts, 2,000 starting watts. Now, everybody knows what this is gunning towards. Everybody's trying to knock down the Honda 2000, or now what is considered the Honda 2200. Well, I don't know if that's ever going to be done, but the difference is you can buy two of these for the price of just one Honda. You're talking $1,000 for a couple of these. So the nice thing about it is you could buy two, still be under the price of the Honda, and you can parallel these together and run your rooftop air if you want. Now here's some of the features that I like. You have a 30 amp RV adapter that's included. This does have a 30 amp port on it. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And it also has a built-in fuel gauge. You know how much I like that on the Atima that I was testing, the big Atima. So I think that that's a nice feature. And it includes the parallel cables. What great things to include on something that is priced so low. So let me go ahead and open this up and let's see what it looks like as we unbox it. Now when I got this was actually shipped to me by post office, which I've never had something like this shipped by post office. And I do want to be clear on this. I'm not being compensated in any way. I was sent this for my honest review, and if you guys are seeing this, if I didn't think it was decent, I wouldn't have posted a video on it. So must be something interesting that I've already talked about. My future self has decided to post this, so let's go ahead and get in here. All right, first thing right out of the box, we're looking at a huge quick start guide, just like I remember the Champion having. Pretty much tells you to put oil in it, tells you to put in the fuel. It's got a on-off switch for the gas cap. That's a good thing. That could mean that this could run with an extended run tank. Usually when they have a vent on them, that's what that means, that you can put up an external tank like the Hondas and allow it to run a lot longer. Now, let's talk about the running a little bit since I've got this open. What they're saying that this can do, just like all of them, this one says 6.5 hours at 50% load. I don't know what that means. It's so hard to judge that. Basically what that should mean is, since this is 1,600 running watts, that an 800 watt load on this generator should run 6.5 hours. The problem is you know, if you're at sea level versus up in the mountains, you know, hot versus cold, that it's all going to make a big difference. So I never really like to do that. So we're going to, of course, do a runtime and we'll put something on it. Now I don't have my RV here that I can connect to it, but we do have something that we can plug in. Since it's a little bit cooler when I'm doing this review, we'll plug in a little heater or a little furnace and see how long it goes. What I've noticed on the wattage worksheet, it says estimated starting watts. What this should be is estimated running watts and then estimated starting watts. I think it was a language thing there, because I'm looking down here at a circular saw and they're saying 1,400 watts to run it. That's about right. And then 2,300 watts. Well, that's starting watts. The next thing is the owner's manual, and it's a real manual. There are quite a few pages there, and as we dig a little bit further into here, we've got the goodie bag, and in the goodie bag we do have a toolkit. I can tell that there's a socket in here for the spark plug. Then we have the 12 volt plug. We have the adapter that is included, which is really nice. And we have the parallel cables too. So those are some really good features. Again, for how low of a price this is, I mean, you got to figure that this sells for roughly $7 to $13 just by itself. And the parallel cables, those usually cost about $13. The plug in the socket thing, that's usually just something that's kind of given out. But what this does is allow you to plug into the cigarette port. I keep on calling it a cigarette lighter, but the power port, and connect this to a battery if you want. You can actually do some form of charging with that. All right, now on to the generator. We got a little funnel, which is uniquely shaped. That is really unique the way that's shaped. It's a two-piecer, but I'm not going to pull it apart because it looks like they did a good job trying to keep that sealed. It's relatively tight. I'm sure that's going to help with the fill. And now the generator itself, I'm going to be shaking the camera, so I'm not going to be filming me taking this out of the box. All right, so let's take a good overall look on this as far as fit and finish. Of course, there's all kinds of warnings. Stop, don't return to the store. There's a toll-free number there. The cord's kind of tucked away. That's kind of nice. I like the way that is. This isn't very big. The dimensions on this they're showing is just over 20 inches, almost 21 inches, 20.8 to be exact. So that's going to be the length. And then as far as the width, they're showing that to be about 12.5 inches, so just over a foot. And then the height of this, 19.3, and that's including the handle, so 19.3 inches on the height. Yeah, I can believe that. That's just about what most of these are at. As far as the weight, right around 40 pounds, 45 pounds, not very heavy at all. And all this is plastic. Just to let you know, this is all plastic. I don't expect it to be metal. Coming around to the back, you do see that there's a spark arrestor that's already attached to the muffler. And then this is the venting, of course, not only for the exhaust, for the combustion, but also the exhaust for the fan that's cooling the engine. Remember, these are all enclosed and they're sealed off really well, but they're still air-cooled engines that need to have air coming across them. And that's where this vents out. So that's pretty hot coming out of there, I'm sure, too. All right, on this side here, you're seeing all the business end of it. This will be the panel that you're going to remove on this side to fill it with oil, and you'll be able to see the engine here in a second. Kind of nice what they've got going on here. You can see the fuel gauge. I know it's not a very good shot. And then your spark plug access, which if you just need to change the spark plug, you can go through here with that wrench that they provide. Again, the gas cap, you have an on-off switch. So I'm again thinking that this might be an extended run type thing to where you could get one of those extended run gas caps and install on here to allow an external tank to feed it. And then of course, these are all the warnings. You know, you got to put oil in it, people. We'll talk about the oil here in a second. It's also nice that up here they're telling you what spark plugs you can use in here and the gap that they need to be set at. That's cool. The only two spark plugs I'm seeing here is a Champion and an NGK that I'm familiar with. And then there's another brand that says Torch. I don't know what that is. Probably it could be a popular Chinese brand. But as far as the Champion, I really like running Champions on smaller engines just because they have a small electrode. They get to running temperature, a cleaning temperature, really fast. However, NGK, very good plug too. I used to run NGK on two-strokes almost exclusively. So either one of those plugs you'll be safe with. Now going to the front here, you can see all the ports. One thing that I can tell you right away that I like a ton is that the ones that aren't being used, they have plugs for to keep the dust and stuff out. And the reason is, which I wish they had one for here, tell you the truth, or even over here, is because this thing does have a fan that will draw air. The thing is it'll draw air through here too. It'll draw air through here and any other port that's open. So it's nice that they include this dust shield for the parallel cable port, the power port, and also the USB port. It's just a single USB port. All those things are pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go over all that because you guys know what this is for. Again, you can put the plug in here that they give you for battery connection. As far as the starting, real simple. You got an off, you have an on, you have the start choke. So you'll be in this position once it starts running. Looks like it's going to be warmed up and start, which is going to be relatively quick. You just go to the run position. There's positive clicks for each one of these, so you can't mess that up. The three lights that everybody's getting used to: low oil alert, overload alarm, which basically means that the circuit has went past a certain point, and then the output indicator. Whenever this is on, that means everything's working fine. If this is flashing constantly, then that means nothing's coming out of these ports, and you need to shut it off. Find out what overloaded it, shut that off, and then restart it, and it'll reset itself. And then your eco throttle, like everybody knows, everybody has. Again, I like that the switches, they're covered with this rubber. Same here. I mean, all that's going to help with drawing dust and dirt into those components, because it don't take very much for these switches to quit working if they get dirty. So overall, a pretty simple, straightforward layout. Nothing that you haven't seen before. So we're going to go ahead and open this up and take a look at the engine real quick. It just looks like a couple of Phillips screws in the corners here, so we'll go ahead and knock those out real quick. Looks like the screws may... Yeah, I don't really care for that on the design. I like it when the screws are retained by the cover, and unfortunately this one does not retain those, so be careful not to lose them. You'll be looking for screws to try to replace them if you did. Now, as far as pulling this open, it's got some positive latches in there, and wow, this engine is extremely small. I mean, it's comparable to the other ones, but really small. It's nice to look in here before you start running this for the first time, just to make sure everything was done okay. Looks like it's mounted on some nice rubber isolators. There's padding all the way around the blower motor. Yeah, that's well thought out. And then I can see the inverter over here and all the coils and everything that's involved with that, all the coil wrap. Of course, that's the business end. They're going to keep that away, far away as they can from the heat. It's going to get the fresh air first. It's the first thing to see, nice, cool, fresh air. Remember, though, if you're going to set this down in any kind of an area that might get wet, the first thing that's going to get ruined is the inverter. So talking about the inverter, this thing does about 13 amps, maybe a little bit over 13 amps. That's going to be right at the top of its outputs. So you don't want to be running anything that might be at 13 amps for too long. And this little furnace that I'm going to run, this little heater, I'm going to kind of find a nice happy medium, because it pulls 12 amps if I set it all the way on high, and 1500 watts. And I don't want to put that kind of a load on it. Other than test it, that I will do that, but I'm not going to run it for a period of time that way. Maybe I'll put it, in the halfway mark. And as far as the engine, 79cc, not very big, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, that's one of the ideas behind keeping these things quiet. The smaller the engine, the better, as far as keeping noise down. The bigger the engine, the more stuff that's moving around inside of it that's bigger also, that you got to dampen and keep it quiet. Now, what about a warranty? 2-year warranty. They give you an 800 number. There's a direct 800 number for the 2-year warranty. And as far as technical advice, of course, that's lifetime. What I find with technical advice after a warranty period, usually I just use that to try to locate parts, because I do make the repairs myself on these things. And this one's not too crazy, it looks like, to work on. It looks like, again, it's pretty straightforward. So far, I like the layout. Of course, here's your oil fill. Let's talk about the fill procedure. As I mentioned before in lots of my other videos, the Chinese engines, the European engines, the Japanese engines, they check their oil differently than a lot of us US people are used to. And that is, you do not screw in the plug to check the oil. All you do is, once this is filled with oil, you put this down into the hole and you just make sure that it's up against the threads, and you pull it out and you check the dipstick. That lets you know what the oil level is. It's not like an old Briggs & Stratton or an old Tecumseh engine where you screw this all the way in and then screw it all the way out to see what your oil level is. This one, you just do the stab method. You stab it, pull it out, check the oil level. And on here, they got markings way up near the top is high, which is where it should be, or somewhere in these crosshatches, and then low all the way down here. And if you're low with as little oil as these take, you're definitely having a problem. So I know you're all scratching your head thinking, well, why hasn't he told me how much oil it takes? Well, I'm going back to the quick start guide. That's going to tell me. It's telling me 12.8 ounces of SAE 10W30 oil. Now, as I mentioned in previous videos, again, this is my own thoughts on this, being a certified small engine mechanic for many years. Whenever you're doing a break-in of anything, I don't care what it is, I wouldn't run synthetic initially. And the reason is because these parts that are rotating and working together for the first time, they need to break in. They need to rub each other. They need to generate heat. Not a lot of heat, but they do need to generate heat. And a good standard oil, not synthetic, not full synthetic, I should say. If you get a semi-synthetic, that's not too much of an issue, but you want to get an oil that's going to allow this to reach temperature, so all the parts break in correctly together. Now, as far as changing the oil, again, in the instructions, it's going to tell you not to tip this. I suggest you follow the instructions. Fill it the way that they tell you, especially if you want to get their warranty. If you've done something wrong, they're going to find out. That's not something that people like to do, is warranty stupidity, even though people try to do it all the time. Thanks, Walmart, for that. And the oil that goes in here, Yama Lube, you can use that, but a 10W30, that's fine. And whenever you're doing your initial break-in, after a month of running on and off, or 20 hours, whichever comes first. So if you're running this on and off a month and you might only get up to 10 hours, change the oil. If you're going to be running it a lot, 20 hours, first 20 hours, do the oil change, put in fresh oil. At that point you can put in synthetic. And a lot of times what I like to do is run 2 low quality oil changes first. I'll do the 20-hour break-in, and then I might do another 10 hours, and then at that point I will go ahead and put in the good oil. And from that point on, every 6 months or 100 hours, you're going to change the oil. You're also going to check your air filter at that point too. So good idea to keep up on the maintenance. These things will last a long time for the most part if you do the maintenance and keep up with it. That's why I make it so easy to get to. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put some oil in this. We're going to put some gas in this, run it, and let you hear it. Filling this up with fuel, there is a debris catcher, a little basket that goes inside the filler neck. Don't remove that. Use that. It keeps out grass and stuff like that. And inside there, you can see there's a little red ring. That's the full mark. So I filled this up to the full mark. And you can see the gauge in there, maybe. Kind of a tough angle with the glare. That's showing that it's full also. And then the cap itself, this isn't like the other caps that I've talked about in the past. This is a sealed cap. So when you tighten this down, you just tighten it down till it's snug. The reason is for transport, you can see there's an off and an on. Well, the off, of course, that's whenever you're going to go anywhere. If you accidentally have this thing fall over in the back of your truck, this is going to do a really good job of keeping gas from coming out. It's a safety issue too for fumes whenever you're traveling, more than anything else for the fumes. I mean, if this tips over, gas is going to eventually come out of the carburetor. All right, so for the time being, I've got the exhaust pointed into the bed of the truck. What I'm going to do is fire this up and then turn it to face it in this direction so that I have all the exhaust blowing off of the edge of the bed. I don't want to ruin this old bed rug that's in this truck. And as far as the starter, I'm sure this is going to be like most others. They're really easy to pull. It's odd how well they've got these things designed now. So going back to the front again, we're going to go ahead again, like I said before, we're going to go to the start choke mode. We're going to make sure that the eco throttle is off. In this case, it indicates by the rabbit. You got a rabbit and the turtle, so I don't know. Maybe rabbits will come out here whenever I do this. It's going to be interesting to see that. So we'll go ahead and put it on the rabbit, start, and then once I get a pull and it starts, I'm going to go ahead and put it to the run position just by turning this to that click position. So in the start mode, go ahead and pull this. There's one. Second pull. And now we're into run. You got to realize the engine is breaking in. It'll only get quieter over time, but a lot of the sound's being reflected out of this bed. So let me go ahead and turn this around and face it out. So far, pretty good. I like the way that it sounds. And you can see that the output indicator is showing green. So let me go ahead and put it out there in the yard somewhere. Now, as I've done in the past, I went ahead and stuck it out in the grass there, almost mud. And it is leaning a little bit. I might have to level it out. You are to run these level. That way the oil gets splashed correctly inside the engine. I've got this set up to about 16 feet. right underneath here is the tape measure, and the 16-foot mark is really underneath this unscientific meter. I do have all the speakers free and clear, and you can see it bouncing around as I talk. So what we'll do is we'll just be a little bit quiet here, and this is again with the eco throttle off. So it looks like that it runs 58, touches 59 a little bit. Let's go ahead and turn it down now that it's warmed up, and we'll put it on the quiet mode. See what that sounds like. Wow, that did quiet it down quite a bit. That thing is just purring. It's barely making any noise. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I want to level this out. So I'm going to put a little piece of wood underneath the one side to get the generator level. And then we're going to put a load on it and let this thing run for a while. So I have it set on eco mode. And we're going to go ahead and turn this on and get an idea of what it's going to be pulling. There's the fan, just fan only. And this is a little heater, and this is a really powerful one, considering this will draw 12 amps. So what we're going to do is first start with the lowest setting, the hottest setting, but the lowest providing temperature setting. You can hear the generator jumped up there. You're getting a little bit of a weird vibration sound come from that because I did put it on that piece of wood, so it's oscillating on that wood. Let's go ahead and bump that load up. This is going to put it on high. Wow, it's handling it just fine. So that little fan, that's a 1200 watt load that it's on right now, and it's not bad as far as the sound, the RPMs. I figured that it'd be much louder than this. Let's go ahead and see what it sounds like. Again, some of that oscillating noise that you're getting is because of the wood that it's sitting on currently. But it's chucking right along, and it's doing pretty good. Okay, we're going to go ahead and try to set a timer here and see how long this thing will go. Right, so we're going to go ahead and do this stopwatch. Again, it's been running at this point for about 10 minutes, so we need to add 10 minutes to the time. Back to this generator, we've been going here on 2.5 hours, and as far as the fuel gauge, looks like it's still really close to full. So everything's going real well here. This thing's still pumping out heat, and it's still churning along. All right, so you can see I moved the other generator over here to make it easier for me to check these as far as runtime. So talking about the Paxcess only in this case, the Paxcess has been running roughly 3 hours and 50 minutes. So we're coming up on 4 hours on that one. So let's check the fuel gauge, see if we can see that. So we're still over a half on the gas, and everything's still running strong. It's still doing a very good job. The sun's going down. I hope that's not going to affect anything. So we'll come back in a little bit and check what this Paxcess has done overall as far as time. So the Paxcess has been running going on 4.5 hours, and again we have the heater set right at about 1200 watts. And it looks like we're at about half a tank of fuel. Alright, so the shadows are getting awful long as the sun's going down, and we have both generators still running, but we're only going to talk about the Paxcess. And right now the Paxcess has been running for 5.5 hours. We still got heat coming out, and we're under a half a tank. So good for that one, still going. So I stepped back away from the units just a little bit because they are a little bit noisier, and the reason being is I went ahead and switched the source on the two different generators as far as the draw, because I noticed that Polonus pulls a lot more power than the dark colored one that's on the right there. Currently, you know, it was connected to the Paxcess. Now I have it set up on the Atima. So basically what I'm doing to the Paxcess now is putting a 1500 watt, a known 1500 watt load on it. We'll go ahead and see how fast that consumes the gas. All right, much later in the evening, and this one finally ran out of gas at 8 hours. Well, actually, just about 8 hours, almost 8 hours, which is really good. It had a 1200 watt load on it for the majority of the time. Then I switched over to a 1500 watt load, and at that point it did run out. So I'm going to tell you that you should be able to get 8 hours out of this if you're just going to be running it to charge your batteries, or if you run a 1200 watt load the entire time, no problem. So 8 hours.
So what's my final thoughts on the Paxcess 2000 watt generator? It's a good one. There's a lot of these generators that are being put into the American market, and for the most part they're all pretty darn good. So basically all I can do is just show you the features and show you some of the things that this specific generator offers, and let you see firsthand somebody that has got their hands on it and what it's like. And I'll tell you, it's a quiet generator. It does a good job with the power as far as the output. Like you've seen with some of the gas run time that I did there, you're talking a 1500 watt load, and it's not very loud, and it's a good generator. You know, at about 46 pounds, 45, 47 pounds, in that range. So we'll just call it 46. It's easy to carry. And as far as the dimensions, it's not overly big, and it's really comparable to the Honda 2000 generator as far as its size. So for $459, and you might be able to find that on sale. I know that they had a Black Friday sale on some of their items with Amazon. Plus, with Amazon, if you use your Amazon card, your charge card, you get 6 months special financing on this. It's a good option. So in the link down below, I'm going to include this generator. Click that link. It's going to take you right to it. And again, I don't think you're going to go wrong. You know, they give you a lot of nice things. They give you that 30 amp RV adapter. That's awesome. They give you the parallel cables. That's awesome. I've had generators that have not come with that stuff. Of course, the funnel, that special shape funnel, the toolkit, the spark plug socket, and the power port that will charge batteries. I mean, those are all nice things to have. So again, take my word for it. It's pretty decent. I think for the fact that they offer 2-year support and you've got a toll-free number you can talk with somebody, really just gives you that peace of mind that most people would probably go with it without even thinking that it's going to be an issue. I want to tell you one thing with these generators, don't overthink them. You know, if this is something that you are kind of leaning towards, go ahead, jump into it. Not a big deal. And I kind of like the idea that I might be able to get 2 of these in parallel to run a rooftop air conditioner. So that might be in the future. We'll have to see. As always, guys, I hope to see you out there. Bye.